It's time for Law in Our Life. That means we have Gwangju in our studio. She is a lawyer practicing here in Gwangju, and she also takes some time out of her busy schedule to come teach us about the law. Hello, Gwangju.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I am just fine, thank you. I understand we have a case here that, maybe we should start with a warning. It's pretty disturbing, at least the beginning of this, isn't it?
Yes.
It's got some ugly details. We're talking about I think I can say this without running afoul of Korea's laws about a slander, a monster.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, tell us about this.
Cho Doosoon has been released from the prison last week.
Mm-hmm.
He was convicted of inflicting or causing another's bodily injury by rape, and he was sentenced to prison for 12 years and was released on December 12th.
Mm-hmm. His
criminal facts was to rape a 12-year-old girl and damage her organs permanently due to injury. The victim underwent 8 hours of surgery, but the rape and torture left around 80% of lower organs completely dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
He was publicly blamed for years for his brutal crime and his shameless argument that he was so drunk and was not competent to commit any crime back then.
Right, which is, we've talked about that before, the way that alcohol is used as an excuse here.
Right.
For, unbelievably brutal crimes.
Sure.
That's a story for another day, I guess, on what alcohol can get you out of here.
Mm-hmm.
But, as you said, he was recently released from prison.
Yes. On the day Mr. Jo was released, many people waited for him to arrive at his place in Ansan, Gyeonggi-do.
Mm-hmm.
As there were some warnings that the citizens will privately punish Cho Doosoon, more than 100 policemen were gathered to protect him from sudden violent attacks from the public.
That's too bad.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe sometime we should let the public settle things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm really allowed to say that on air, but it'd be pretty excusable, I think.
Yeah.
So why don't you explain a little bit about this background, right?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about some legal issues about his 12-year sentence and the subsequent measures to monitor him.
Okay. So the 12 years is part of what had people upset. They thought maybe it should be longer than 12 years.
Sure.
But 12 years is a pretty long sentence.
In Korea.
It's harder to give a longer sentence than that in Korea.
Yes, in Korea. But from Canada, I think people might expect longer terms, right?
To be honest, if someone wasn't killed and if it's one person,
mm-hmm.
I don't even know if it would be 12 years in Canada.
Mm.
I really don't. We have a special law where we can call someone a dangerous offender, which is kind of a special law that doesn't get used a lot. And then you can lock them up forever.
Okay.
But, that's hard to use, and it's hard to use on someone who isn't, committing many, many crimes.
Right.
But in one instance, even if the crime is so brutal, if it's not murder, I don't think you could really, get life or something like that.
Right.
But how does it work here in Korea?
Yes. As you may know, depending on what laws to apply, the level of penalty can vary.
Mm-hmm.
In case of Cho Doosoon, in December 2008, the police transferred the case to the prosecutor's office with the crime title of inflicting or causing another's bodily injury by rape. And
Mm-hmm.
it was defined under the Act on Special Cases Concerning the Punishment, etc. of Sexual Crimes.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a special law.
Okay.
But according to the news, the act was revised 5 months before the crime occurred. And with the revised act, a person who committed rape and injured a child under the age of 13 could be put to jail for indefinite term.
Well, that sounds good. Why wasn't that used?
Yeah, it was a good change. However, at the time, the prosecutor did not know of such revision and thought that Mr. Jo could not be sentenced to serve prison time for indefinite term under that law. So he brought the case as inflicting or causing another's bodily injury by rape, the same name, but which was set forth under the Criminal Act, the general law.
Uh-huh.
Therefore, Mr. Jo could have his court decision based on the General Act, Criminal Act, not based on the special law that addressed the child sex crimes with more severity.
Okay, wait a minute. Are you serious? So, because the prosecutor was ignorant of the law, this guy isn't serving a life sentence?
So, like, people blame the prosecutors that they could have, like, changed the applicable law even during the court proceedings and could fix it, but they didn't do it.
Wow. Unbelievable. I don't understand. I really don't. I want to say a lot of things, but it would probably be slandering the prosecutor, so I should be careful about that. Mind-blowing, still.
Yeah. Therefore, if the prosecutor applied the right legal provision, like the applicable law that could be applied back then, there is still a chance that Mr. Cho might be in prison now. There was criticism against the prosecutor's case management. In the court, Mr. Cho claimed that he lost his mind due to heavy drinking of alcohol, and he was incompetent, and his criminal responsibility should be reduced.
Which is ridiculous.
Yep. The court accepted his argument and sentenced him with 12 years in prison, mandatory wear of electric anklet for additional 7 years, and 5 years of identity disclosure.
So, I mean, so the judge as well made this decision to accept that excuse.
Yeah, that was the lower, like the lowest court's decision.
Right.
And Mr. Cho filed an appeal for such lower court's decision, saying that it's too much.
Really?
It's too harsh.
Wow.
But ironically, the prosecutor did not appeal the lower court decision.
Even though they could have, because it could have been more.
Yep.
Okay.
In the following appellate court and Supreme Court, the original, like the lower court's decision was confirmed. So it became like 12 years.
Okay. I feel sick about it. But a lot of people felt sick about it, right?
Yes. Many blamed Korean justice system was in lax in punishing sex crimes. So on December 9th, the Congress passed a bill named Prevention of Cho Doosoon. The act is about the ban on people with sex crime records to go out during specific times, such as time children go to school or heading back to home or at nighttime.
Okay. And so now he's released.
Yes. But in 2017, almost like 1 million citizens petitioned to ban his release.
Right. And, okay, I mean, good for them for signing.
Right.
But at the same time, that isn't how the law works.
No.
Right? You can't, even if it's a popular decision, you can't keep someone in jail. Or, I don't know. Maybe you could do that in some in some country's legal system, right?
Yeah,
but
maybe.
Not what we have here in Korea.
Yes, it might not be constitutional.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It's not how the system works.
Sure.
Even if it sounds kind of fair. So he is under a lot of supervision, as you mentioned, right?
Yes, his house is equipped with monitoring system now. He will be watched 24/7 for as long as he wears the anklet monitor. He will have at least 4 times of face-to-face consultation a week.
I can't imagine meeting this guy. Like, how would you not spit in his face? You know?
The prosecutor requested special mandatory restriction for Mr. Cho, such as prohibition of alcohol consumption beyond certain amount, ban on access to victim or children, protection facilities, and restriction on his going out at nighttime. The court granted a decision today for that. For 7 years until during he wears the anklet, Mr. Cho will be completely prohibited from going out at night from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Or having alcohol.
Good.
Also, he cannot enter educational facilities. And he cannot access the victim within 200 meters.
Right, and the 200 meters is important because from what I read, she still lives in the same city, right?
Yeah, she moved out recently.
Yeah. Oh, she did?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
But who knows?
Well,
yeah.
I should watch what I say, but unbelievable. Yeah. And now people in the community have to live with this monster, right?
Yes. Neighbors of Mr. Cho raised concern on their safety and security issues now. Also, as many people gather in front of Mr. Cho's residence and shouted to make him come out, such nuisance is also causing inconvenience to the people in the area.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
And yeah, you wouldn't want to I mean, you wouldn't want this person to be your neighbor. At the same time, you also don't want a whole bunch of protesters hanging around, making your life difficult.
Yeah.
Just because this person lives in your area.
Right.
It's a real not in my backyard kind of situation.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's mind-boggling. As you said, I guess that's for 7 years that he's wearing the anklet. Hopefully he doesn't live that long. And so we can close this chapter on this miserable person once and for all. Now, we're going to put this online, right?
Yes, you can find this segment in video and my YouTube channel. You can find me by searching Korean Law 101 on YouTube.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you so much for coming in today, even though it was a pretty horrific example of a misapplication of the law. Thank you, Hyunju.
Thank you for having me.